5 of us went in there. 4 of us came out the same. By the time we were out, none of us could explain what we'd seen, only that something had been standing there long before we arrived. We were 14, maybe 15. The years blur in the way it does when nothing official happened. It was the summer when everyone's parents worked late and nobody had enough money to go anywhere that required tickets. We rode bikes because gas cost money and bikes didn't. We went places we weren't supposed to because there wasn't much else to do, and because no one was really watching. The place was already known. That's important. It wasn't some random building we found by accident. Everyone in town knew it, even if nobody admitted going inside. You could see it from the highway, brick, long, flat, windows punched out or boarded depending on which side you were on. People still called it the mill, even though it hadn't been a mill in a long time. My dad called it a fire hazard. My mom said it was full of needles. None of us had ever seen a needle there, which made that part feel exaggerated, which made the rest feel negotiable. We met at the skate park because that's where we always met. Of course, not to skate, usually. More because it had benches and nobody asked what we were doing there. Tyler brought the camera, a real one, not a phone. He said it would look better, more legit. He said we could put the pictures online and people would think we were older. No one asked what older meant. There were 5 of us: Tyler, me, Mark, his sister Jess, and Aaron, who was the youngest, but also the one who never said no to anything. He rode behind me on his bike because his chain kept slipping. He kicked me a few times on purpose until I told him to stop, harder than I needed to. The fence around the place had been cut for years. The opening was wide enough to walk through without ducking. Someone had tied the loose ends back with a wire like they were being polite about it. That detail bothered me later. At the time, it just looked convenient. The ground inside was a mix of weeds and gravel and broken glass that had been there so long it wasn't even sharp anymore. It just looked sharp, like a warning that had lost its function. We didn't go in right away. We stood there and talked about whether we should, which was mostly just a way to delay deciding no. We talked about how everyone had already done it. Tyler said his cousin had gone in and nothing happened. Jess said her friend's brother broke his ankle, but that was because he was drunk, not because the place was dangerous. That mattered to us at the time, like danger followed rules if you respected them. I remember the smell first, before anything else. Not rot exactly, but old water, metal, something faintly sweet underneath that didn't belong there. The air felt cooler inside, which we liked because it was hot out. None of us had air conditioning at home. The doors were gone, just openings where doors used to be. You could still see the hinges, just rusted and empty. The floor near the entrance was mostly clear, dust and footprints layered over each other until it looked like a map of people who had changed their minds. There were names written in marker on the walls, dates, the usual stuff. Someone had spray painted a big face with its mouth open too wide. We made fun of it because it felt safer to make fun of something that couldn't answer back. Tyler took pictures of everything. Crouched, stood on things, leaned too far back. He kept saying, "Hold on and wait, and this is sick." The camera flash went off even though he said he turned it off. Then he said it was automatic. The flash made the whole place jump, like it was reacting to us instead of the other way around. We stuck together at first. That was the rule we all said out loud. Stay together, don't wander, don't go upstairs. There were stairs, metal, half collapsed, leading to a catwalk that ran the length of the building. You could see daylight through parts of the roof. Pigeons moved somewhere above us, but we never saw them. Just the sound of wings shifting. Mark found a clipboard on the ground and pretended to read it like a tour guide. Jess told him to shut up. Aaron kept asking how old the place was, and nobody answered him directly. I remember noticing that my phone had no signal, even though it usually did there. I remember noticing it and then deciding not to say anything, like naming it would make it real. We went deeper because that's what you do. The farther you go, the more it feels like you earned being there. The rooms blurred into each other, big open spaces with concrete pillars, smaller rooms that might have been offices. One room had filing cabinets tipped over like they'd been pushed, not fallen. Another had a single chair in the middle, facing nothing. Tyler took a picture of that one, said it was creepy. We laughed because it felt like it was required. At some point, there was a noise, not a bang, more like a scrape, low, metal on concrete. We all stopped talking at the same time, which is the first thing that felt wrong. Tyler whispered, "Did you hear that?" Even though we obviously had. Mark said it was probably the building settling. That sounded like something adults say, which made it feel more convincing than it should have been. The noise stopped when we stopped. That detail didn't land right then. It landed later when I tried to remember how long we stood there without breathing properly. Right then, we waited and counted in our heads without counting out loud. Aaron shifted his weight, and the sound came back, shorter this time, like someone correcting their position. Jess said it's probably a raccoon, but she didn't sound convinced. Still, no one argued. We started moving again, slower. It was pitch black. Tyler didn't take pictures for a while. He held the camera down by his side like it had suddenly gotten heavier. There was a hallway that sloped slightly downward. The floor was damp there, darkened like it had never fully dried. We left footprints that filled with water after a few seconds, slowly and deliberately. I remember thinking about how long the water had been there, how it didn't move, like it was waiting for something to disturb it. We argued quietly about whether to keep going. This is where my memory gets fuzzy. I know we did keep going, but I don't remember who said yes first. It might have been me, which is hard to admit because I'm not usually the one who pushes. But I remember saying something like, "We're already here," which is the kind of logic that only works when turning around feels worse than whatever's ahead. There was another sound then, closer, not scraping this time, more like breathing, but uneven, like someone trying very hard not to be noticed. Mark made a joke about it being a homeless guy. That was another adult explanation. Made things worse instead of better. We didn't run. That's important too. We walked faster, trying not to make noise, which is impossible when you're scared because your body doesn't listen. Aaron tripped and grabbed my shirt to steady himself. He laughed too loud and then covered his mouth like he could put the sound back in where it came from. The hallway opened to a bigger room that had once been something important. You could tell because of the size, the reinforced beams, the way the floor dipped in the center like it had learned to give. There was machinery there, or what was left of it. Rusted shapes, belts hanging like dead vines. Tyler raised the camera again without thinking. The flash went off. After that, things don't line up cleanly. I know there was someone else there, not one of us. I know that because of the way Jess screamed my name. Not a generic scream, but the kind that's aimed, like she knew where I was without seeing me. I turned and saw Mark backing away, his hands up like he was joking, but his face wasn't. I didn't see the person clearly. I saw movement where there shouldn't have been any. I saw a shape detach itself from the dark near one of the machines, like it had been standing there longer than we had. Someone grabbed Aaron, or maybe Aaron grabbed them. I lose sequence here. I remember the sound he made, that more surprised than scared, like he hadn't realized fear applied yet. I remember Tyler dropping the camera because it hit the floor and the flash kept going off, strobing everything in hard white bursts. I remember my own hands shaking so hard I couldn't tell what they were touching. We ran then, not together. That rule broke immediately. Jess went one way, Mark another. Tyler dove to pick up the camera and then dropped it again. I grabbed Aaron's arm and pulled him because that felt like the thing I was supposed to do. Like there was still a right move available. He was crying without making noise, his mouth open, nothing coming out. The stairs, I don't remember reaching them, just being on them. They shook under our weight. Something heavy hit one of the beams behind us, and the sound followed, echoing too long like it had wanted to stay with us. I didn't look back. I don't think I could have if I had tried. Outside, the light felt wrong, too bright, the air too hot. We kept running, even after we were through the fence, our bikes crashing over, someone yelling about a tire. We didn't stop until we were 3 streets away, hiding behind a closed gas station with the lights off. That's when we realized Mark wasn't there. We waited. We argued about going back. We tried calling him and got nothing. Jess kept saying his name like she was checking it for damage. Tyler was shaking so hard he couldn't stand. Aaron sat on the curb and stared at his hands like they belonged to somebody else. Mark finally came back on his own. He walked up the street like he'd just been out for a walk, but limping slightly. His shirt was torn. There was blood on his arm. Not a lot, just smeared like he'd wiped it off without noticing. He said he fell. He said he got turned around. He said there was nobody there. He laughed when he said it, which felt wrong in a way that I couldn't explain at the time. We went home after that, separately. No group ride, no talking about it. I walked my bike most of the way because my legs wouldn't stop shaking, and I didn't trust myself not to fall. At home, my mom asked me where I'd been. I told her the park. She said I smelled weird. I said the trash cans were overflowing. It was true enough. Aaron didn't come back to school for a week. When he did, he had a cast on his wrist. He said he fell off his bike. Everyone accepted that. Jess stopped hanging out with us. Mark acted like nothing happened, flinched when lockers slammed. Tyler never posted the pictures. He said the camera broke, even though it didn't. The place got boarded up more thoroughly a few weeks later, new fence and cameras. People said it was because of liability. They said someone finally complained. It wasn't us, and no one mentioned us. No one mentioned the timing. Sometimes I think about the moment we stopped hearing the noise, when we stopped moving. Sometimes I think about how the camera flash kept going even when it was on the floor, like the building was blinking back. Mostly I think about how easy it was to decide to go in and how impossible it was to explain why we ran. We never told anyone about it. Not the police, not our parents, not the school, no one. We didn't know what we'd say. There was a guy in a building we weren't supposed to be in. He grabbed us. We grabbed him. We weren't sure about it. We don't have pictures. I don't know. It never made it anywhere outside of our group. I drive past it now, and it looks smaller, less important, like any other abandoned thing. I don't slow down. I don't look for the cut in the fence, even though I know it's probably still there somewhere, tied back politely.